new 30-minute game going in just a moment. You may notice behind me a contraption. It's a modular synthesizer. This is a gimmick to increase viewer retention that I'm going to try for a couple days. We'll see what happens. So let's get some music going. There we go. Down just a notch. Alright. Let's get going. We got the black pieces. D4 opening, sort of unusual. We will meet them in the center. Queen's Gambit accepted. This is not the normal move. Ordinarily we see either knight out to f3 or pawn out to e4. Obviously that hasn't happened here. So I think what we can do is play our pawn all the way out to e5. The purpose of playing knight to f3 is to prevent pawn to e5, so we'll go ahead and take advantage of that. They push forward. I think, what do we do here? We play our knight out. Yeah, I think that's probably the move, and start putting some pressure on this pawn. They play pawn out to e4, which I guess we're not able to take, huh? Because they have their knight out on c3. So maybe we can pin their knight to both to prepare castling and to take this pawn. It's a nice multi-purpose move. I like how we're doing so far. I'm expecting to see something like a3 to contest this pin. Ooh. Okay. I messed up. I messed up big time. So we're going to lose this piece. I think probably c6 is the move here. Ordinarily I would like to play knight out to c6 to protect this bishop. However, this of course loses the knight to the pawn, and the pawn just threads all sorts of nastiness. Shucks. Well, we can take this opportunity to develop a piece. We can get castled. No, we can't get castled because they're blocking the castling square. So what can we do instead? We could play like knight out to a6, which blunders our b7 pawn, so obviously not a great option. This b7 pawn is hanging like regardless, so maybe we just need to push it forward. Gosh, yeah, already a poor position. Not a great start to the day. I was hoping for a little bit more. They take the gambit pawn. This is not a huge loss. This is something we're expecting to lose anyways. We could play like pawn out to a5 to scare away the queen. They could drop back to a3. I don't think we can't play our knight out because their bishop is in the way. Let's do this and just try to push a piece back a little bit, get their pieces sort of out of our position. There we go. So now we can castle. Yeah, we can safely castle. Get our king out of the way, and they've got all these pieces on the queen side of the board. So hopefully that buys us a little bit of breathing room. And now we can figure out how to sort of unstick our position. They develop a piece. Good move. What does pawn out to c6 look like? This is sort of a challenging thing to unstick because they have this nice big control of the center. So I think if we play our pawn out, they could push, which I think would be bad for us because it opens up this diagonal for attacking. So can we prevent them from pushing somehow? I don't think so. Don't think so. We could get our queen out to e7. Potentially dangerous lining up our queen and our rook on that diagonal like that, but I don't see how they can get their dark squared bishop into the game quickly enough. It's going to take a couple of moves, like 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so let's do that. This allows us to prevent this forward movement of this pawn. Develops our queen off the back rank. They castle, so we get a little bit more breathing room. Let's go ahead and play that c6 move that we were talking about. Free up our position a little bit. Let's see. They take, they lose the pawn, or we trade the pawn more accurately. We add another attacker to this e4 pawn, so I think we could take that at the price of an even trade. And I would say trades are not in our favor right now because we're down a piece. This nice open file to stay aware of. Jeez, not a lot of great options, but I think we are pushing our opponent back a little bit. Alright, they come in, knight to d6, relinquishing control of this e4 pawn, but at the same time hitting our queen, so we can't ignore this threat. Cannot ignore this threat, so we could come up to... Geez, I think our option here is to take, because if we came up to, for example, C5, they could take here and we ruin our pawn structure. What if we just come up to D6? They could still take, we could take back. Are they threatening anything else? Let's see. They're threatening to take our undefended B6 pawn. I don't think C7 threatens our rook, which we can move out of the way. Oh yeah, I think we have to take this, unfortunately. I do think we have to take this. So do we take with the knight, or do we take with the bishop? If we take with the bishop, and they take back with their bishop, we could take this pawn, or yeah, take this pawn with their knight. If we take with the knight, we can't take, no matter what, we have to move this bishop, and then we're down a tempo. So I think we take with the bishop, fighting for truly any advantage that I can get, and we take this pawn. Ugh. Not my morning. Not my morning. This is a fork. If we can get rid of this dark squared bishop, develop our knight to threaten their bishop, although that doesn't work because their bishop just takes their knight. We can develop our knight to here, I guess. Boy, oh boy. This is just not going to be my game, and it's going to have to be alright. Here we go. We got a fork here. I could probably take, I guess. No, because then they lose the bishop. Move their queen somewhere that it defends the bishop. Okay. So we pick up the bishop, unless I'm missing something. I've missed many things this game. I'm not under any illusions that we're likely to win this game, but it feels good to make a little bit of a, not a comeback even. Probably looking to play h6 to avoid any back rank mate ideas. their dark squared bishop comes out, connecting the rooks. Maybe they're looking to go, like, to here? No, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, maybe they are looking to go to c5, although they lose the exchange. As they take back, and then we take their queens. That doesn't work for them. Let's see. h6 is an option, just a move to avoid back rank mate ideas. We could first develop our rook out to d8 or c8 to actually, yeah, maybe they will play c5. Maybe that's the purpose they're getting their dark square bishop out, because they see c5 and they're like, oh, you know, I skewer their queen and the rook. That's a great option for us. But maybe they don't see our knight. So let's give them a moment. I'll go and play h6. It's a move we want to play anyways. I've given them a fair amount of time to think and perhaps see why c5 isn't the strongest move. Otherwise, let's see. If we could scare away this knight somehow, we might have some aggressive ideas. Gosh, we would need to find a better home for a knight. So knight back to f6, knight over to g4, and queen to h4, queen takes h2, checkmate. So it's 4 moves away. That doesn't seem very likely to me. But I don't want to write off this game quite yet. I want to keep pushing, keep fighting. Turn off this base. Not a strong game for me today. So we have checkmate in 4 moves. If our opponent just like pushes pawns for 4 moves. Can we do anything to improve that? We have this knight sacrifice on f2 that ostensibly opens up a weakness, but no, I think they have so many ways to take back. I don't think that does anything for us. Queen takes on a5, that's fine, and then with the option of queen takes on e5, and then this is like an even trade. Very, very bad for us. We could add another defender to this pawn with f6, but of course that opens up this diagonal to our king. Play a rook out to e8. Still, this is like a pretty poor trade. Rook out to e8. We do the queen trade, and we pick up a knight. So that brings us. So we're only behind 6 points of material then. Less than ideal. I like pushing the pawn, even though. Oh no, pushing the pawn loses our knight. As we push the pawn, queen comes over to d5, check. We move out of the way, and then queen takes on e4. So right now, rook to e8 is probably our strongest candidate move. I don't see any other way that we can move our knight out of the way. Is there anything we can do there? Where can our knight move? Let's see. These lose the knight. This loses the knight. G5 loses the knight in an even trade. F6 is an option. D6 is an option, but sort of cuts off this nice diagonal for a queen. And C5, I think, loses the knight as well, because they have two attackers on that square. So we could move our knight to F6. So those are our candidate moves, knight to F6 or rook to E8. And I think probably rook to E8 is what I'm going to go for, just to stop the bleeding a little bit. Maybe if they see that it's not an even exchange, they won't go for it. Yeah. And it undoes this potential pin or potential skewer of queen and rook by their dark squared bishop. Not something that I think is likely to be an issue, but so we have this knight blocking the C5 square. Now they have an option to get their dark squared bishop out a little bit further. I'm going to get a little bit of randomness in the music while we're waiting for our next move. Let's see. That's not it. I wonder. It's a little bit too random. Okay, so they play A3, sort of a waiting move. Not looking to push a pawn to promotion, maybe just trying to curb the development of our queen. They could be looking to play queen to B4. A pretty substantial threat against our queen. But I think this gives us a moment to breathe, which is really nice. So we could move our knight away to F6 like we discussed earlier, open up this idea of pawn to E4. It's really our only hope at this point. We have all this firepower aligned on the E file. If we get our knight out of the way, we could I don't know, make some sort of progress. So let's do that. Knight back to F6. We're operating entirely in this 4x4 box of squares. It's really not looking good for us. I guess this opens up as an option, which is dangerous. In which case, actually, I think we could just push our queen to E6 and be safe from that threat, which is nice. So sort of starting to move on to light squares seems an appealing option, because they only have their dark squared bishop left. We move up. I don't think, or it doesn't look like we're going to get forked or anything. These are forkable if we could get our knight over here somehow, or up here. 1, 2, 3. Let's see. So they're lining up, perhaps, to prepare an attack on this pawn. I don't think they were ready for this. We can push our pawn, threatening their knight, winning a valuable tempo. Okay. We're maybe pulling something together. Knight comes out, threatening our queen. We can push our queen forward again. This is technically a fork, but their bishop is defended by the queen, and their knight is defended by their bishop, so I don't think that's a good idea. We could move our queen over to, like, G4 to prepare I don't know, like knight, checkmate. Yeah, knight to h5, knight to f4, checkmate. Sort of cumbersome, but I'm looking for any idea that would work at this point. That also gets her queen out of the way of this knight attack. So what if we do that? Queen to g5 and doesn't leave our other pieces at risk, I don't think. Our knight's nice and defended. Our rook is defended by our knight. Something we'll need to keep an eye out for. We might need to move our king to f8. No, we can't do that. This is it's looking a little bit dangerous. We have some threats that we're generating a little bit of counterplay. 1, 2, 3 moves away from checkmate. If our opponent doesn't do anything but push pawns. Now they only have one attacker on this, so we can move our knight away. Maybe, what's better, knight to h5 or knight to d5, preparing knight to f4. Sort of moves out to the rim, but is a less dangerous area. Does knight to d5 threaten anything else? I don't think so. All of these squares are covered. That's our target square. All of these lose the knight. This blocks the rook. e7 blocks the rook, which is no good. Okay. So I think probably knight to h5 looks to be the stronger move. Our opponent is probably evaluating something like h3 or f3 to scare our queen away. Yeah. Boy, f3 would have been, I think, pretty cool to see. Actually, no, that might have been bad, because I think takes, and then our position sort of starts to crumble. So I think here we drop our queen back to g6, maintaining the pressure on this g2 pawn, and still threatening this checkmate idea of getting our knight out. This is forkable now. Our queen and our king can be forked. This is defended by our rook, but we still need to be cautious, because it's easy for them to get to. Knight to c6, knight to e7, forking our queen and our king. We could push here. I don't think that accomplishes anything for us. We push, take, we lose the rook. Okay, so they're maybe going for it. Good to be cautious, good to be wary. So if they move here, we can take. What are they preparing for? Are they preparing for, like, bishop to d4, maybe? So we can move our knight, like, into the center. Can they move their... They can't move their bishop anywhere super dangerous. And I think if they take here, then we can take back and still be guarding this e7 square. Is there anywhere else they might be going that would be dangerous? So this is occupied by a piece. This is far away. It's not dangerous. e5 would hit our queen. Or I guess that's guarded by the rook. So these two are guarded by the rook, so we don't need to worry about that. These two are guarded by the rook. No, I don't think they'd be going anywhere else. So I think maybe e7 with plans to do additional things in a little bit. So maybe we move our knight to h5. Or do we go to d5 and sort of feign... It's like, oh, we're going to one of these other squares. We're, getting into your business. I think, yeah, knight to d5 is less protected, but less obviously a checkmate maneuver. Oh, gosh. No, I think we should play the slightly more defensive attacking move, knight to h5. Okay, so they go for it. Oh, I see. It's defended by Okay, not the end of the world. Again, not my morning. They'll take here. We need to move our knight out of the way. We're going to lose the rook regardless. So I think rook down to e8 doesn't do anything for us. So we move up like this. It just sort of prolongs the inevitable. Move forward with our plan, hoping for checkmate idea. Is there anything better we can do? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces that we can move. No, I think threatening checkmate is probably the strongest thing we can do. Pawn out to threaten the knight. We have knight takes h3, check. Pawn comes all the way out. We still have knight to h3 check. Oh shucks. Defending the g2 square on which we were getting ready to deliver checkmate. Darn. Ugh. Actually, I guess we still have knight takes h3 check. Their pawn can't recapture because our queen has it pinned. So this could introduce some sort of idea. We don't have to trade queens immediately. Let's desperado, hoping for anything that sticks at this point. Probably king to h2. If their king moved here or here, these are both potentially forkable squares with the queen, but I don't think we can... Oh, that would have been cool. King to h1 allows knight takes f2, forking the king and the queen. That obviously didn't happen. Where are our forkable squares? Here, which we can't get to this turn. And all the way over here, which we can't get to this turn. Okay. This is a queen trade, which is unappealing. Queen to a6, check. Looks like an option. They can't move back, so they need to put a piece in the way. They need to put their rook or their queen in the way. Yeah, let's... Oh no, our queen is pinned to our king. Oh, shucks. We could play... Yeah. Pawn to f5, threatening their queen. They can't take our knight. Okay. We're reaching for anything and everything to give us even the slightest edge at this point. This permits... Ooh, okay, so they need to move there. Okay. So we got queen to a6, hitting their king. They need to move their rook in the way, I think. Or maybe their queen. Again, these are forkable squares. Again, we cannot reach them. But I think playing a check is probably our strongest move here. Unless, can we move? We do like... We could hit their queen like this. But I don't think that accomplishes anything. No. Yeah, so... Check. Probably queen here is the strongest move. Just keep offering that queen trade, I think, is a strong move for our opponent. Or they could, like, rook out, I make some move, and then they have queen takes f5 check, which is bad for us, because then we for sure lose the knight. Okay, they put the rook out. Queen and rook are forkable. Once again, well, I guess we can hit one of those squares. So if we play knight to g1, king takes, we can't take the rook because the queen takes back. We need to make a knight move, otherwise we lose the knight. So let's drop our knight back to g5, hitting the queen, forcing them to do something. And then our knight is protected by this pawn. Queen takes f5, I think is most likely, in which case, oh. No, g6 introduces some checkmating ideas that I don't really like, because I think queen takes, pawn to g6, queen comes down to f7, and then we have h8 to go to, and that's it. And that's got to be it, because they have, or I guess they can't do this, but I think checkmate will be quickly following something like this. Rook comes out down to d8. Yep. So we move our king in this case. Probably down to g8. So we can't be checked. Oh no. This queen to f8 is also checked, but doesn't accomplish anything for our opponent. And then do we have any... We just have these two pieces, our knight and our queen, and I don't believe we could come out... We could come out queen to b5, hitting... This pawn is weak, but it's defended by this rook that we forced out, hitting their bishop, which is potentially attackable. They double up their rooks for some reason. They can't move this rook out of the way right now, so I think that's a poor decision. That loses a pawn. We could move here, threatening two of their pieces. Queen to b5. There's nowhere we can move this knight, really. That's a safe place. Just loses the knight to queen takes. Loses the knight to queen or pawn takes. Loses the knight to queen or pawn takes. We can move back here, back here. I don't think moving the knight actually accomplishes anything, so I think just queen to b5, maintaining this pin, and hoping to win one of these pieces. At least we have our queen. At least we have our queen. It's a dangerous piece to have on the board. Okay, king moves away, removing the fork. Rook to e8 to follow shortly. Our queen is defending that square. And that's checkmate, isn't it? Because... Let's see. Or it's going to be checkmate, because rook comes down, king has no escape squares, so queen has to capture, and then their other rook comes down, delivering checkmate. So how do we generate... We need new escape squares or a new threat. Pawn to g6. Loses the pawn with check. And then we move to h8, and that's checkmate. Queen moves. We could just take. And then... I don't think that does anything for us. Queen takes on e2. They capture a queen, and then whatever we do, they come down and deliver checkmate on the next move. Oh, knight to h7, allowing knight to f8 to block the rook, but then they have queen comes down or rook comes over, or bishop comes over and takes the knight, so that doesn't work. Some sort of defensive resource must be available. Or do we just prolong the inevitable for as long as possible? So I think, yeah, knight out to h7, permitting this block, and then see how far we can make it. So I think rook to e8. So our options, yeah, no escape squares. I think knight to f8. They can't take with their bishop because it's not check. They take with the rook, and that's checkmate. So I think, yeah, we need to take this rook. Oh, man. Yeah, I think that's it. Rook takes, checkmate. Ugh. Just one blunder. I feel like I had many. Let's take a look at the analysis. Pause the music for the analysis. Maybe the music isn't the best idea. It's like this analysis bar. Just, I make a blunder early on and just devastating. C3 is a book move. Okay. I think that's something I'm super familiar with. E5 is a book move. D5 is an accuracy. So I think what I spotted here of maybe being able to win this pawn was accurate. Yeah, bishop b4, big mistake. This queen to a4 check is so potent in the Queen's Gambit. As white, you open up that opportunity on like move 2, right? You play d4 and then you play c4, opening up this line for your queen. It's such a great tactical idea. Yeah, a4 is a great move. I guess blocking with the knight was slightly better because they take here. And then maybe I can like retreat my bishop or just trade it off. I do want to see blocks the check from the opposing queen. They take, and then yeah, and then we trade off. Or I mean, this just we take with check. They have to take back, and then we have an opportunity to castle before they take. Because otherwise, this just continues to be devastating. Oh yeah, that's brutal. Okay. The game was brutal anyways. Let's see. Capturing your hanging pawn. Kick our opponent's piece out. We're able to get castled. Defend a pawn. Yup. We make this exchange. We gave up this knight. We gave up the rook. Yeah, I should have taken that knight. We lose the knight as well. Oh boy, just brutal, brutal, brutal. Many mistakes for me this morning. I think I played well defensively after losing just a ton of material, but it was a little bit of a foregone conclusion. Threatening to win material through a fork. Yep, that would have been nice. How did this actually play out? Yeah, e7 check. They take. Gosh. So close to checkmate. Played any other move, I would have had it. Oh well. We'll get him next time. I think the rest of the game is not super instructive. Like, I guess dropping the knight back would have been better there. Okay. That's something we did eventually, anyways. Knight to g3 was better? Or knight to h3 was best? I don't understand that. Queen takes. Yeah, they're still on the road for checkmate. I mean, there's no world in which black wins here. It's 2 pieces against 4. White has an enormous number of pawns. Tough game. I need to find some way to be aware of that in the Queen's Gambit Accepted. Like, remembering, hey, Queen's Gambit Accepted, Queen to a4 check is a potent tactical idea. So something to think about. I know that's like an instinct from the Caro is, like, after you play c6, you're opening up queen to b6 or queen to a5 immediately. Yeah, anyway. It's good for today. I'm going to call it here. See y'all next time.